Hello, Virgo. I'm Anna. Welcome back to Virgo. Mm, some nights you don't come looking for anything in particular. You just end up here, scrolling past everything that didn't hold your attention until something did. And maybe that says something not about the algorithm, not about chance, but about what part of you was already awake tonight and looking without fully admitting it for exactly this. There are people thinking about you right now, not in the abstract way, not the vague, comfortable idea that somewhere out there someone probably is. More specific than that, more present than that. There are specific people with specific faces, specific histories with you, specific reasons, who have had you on their mind in ways they probably haven't told you, in ways they might not even fully admit to themselves. And one of them, maybe more than one, is younger than you. Not by a decade necessarily, maybe just enough to feel different, enough that when you first sensed it, that particular quality of attention they gave you, you didn't quite know what to do with it. So you filed it away somewhere, under things that are probably nothing, under things you're not supposed to take seriously, under things that feel good, but also slightly confusing, because there's something disorienting is less than #0. 5# is greater than, about being looked at that way by someone you didn't expect. Not unpleasant, disorienting, like suddenly seeing yourself reflected in a mirror you didn't know was there. And the reflection is not what you expected, not the version of yourself you carry around internally. The tired version, the doubtful version, the version that's been so deep inside its own story that it forgot somewhere along the way how it looks from the outside. And that's the thing worth sitting with, not the person, not who they are or what they want or what it means, but what their attention revealed about how you've been seeing yourself, about the gap. And there is a gap between who you actually are and the diminished version you've quietly settled for believing in. Because somewhere, and this happened gradually without a single definable moment, you started underestimating yourself. Not dramatically, not in ways that would be obvious to someone watching, but in the small, daily, almost imperceptible ways that accumulate into something significant. The way you edit yourself before speaking, the way you preemptively minimize what you bring to a room, the way you're genuinely surprised, sometimes even slightly suspicious, when someone looks at you with that kind of interest. Like there must be a mistake, like they're seeing something that isn't really there, or won't be once they look closer. That suspicion, that reflexive discounting of your own appeal, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from somewhere specific, from moments that taught you that being seen too clearly was dangerous, that wanting to be desired was presumptuous, that the version of yourself you privately thought you were was probably inflated, probably not quite accurate, probably something to be modest about, kept quiet, kept small, so you wouldn't be caught overestimating yourself. And so you learned to move through the world slightly apologetically, not in a way anyone would necessarily name, but in the way you hold yourself in certain rooms, in the way you respond when someone compliments you, the immediate deflection, the quick minimizing, the almost involuntary need to make it smaller than it was, because accepting it fully, letting it land completely, felt like too much, like more than you were supposed to take. And then someone younger looks at you with that particular quality of attention, uncomplicated by the history you carry about yourself, uncontaminated by the story you've been telling. They're not seeing the version of you that's been through things. They're not seeing the tired version, the careful version, the version that learned to make itself smaller. They're seeing something else, something that's still there, that was always there underneath all the editing. And it's disorienting because part of you wants to dismiss it. They're young, you tell yourself. They don't know enough yet. They'll see more clearly with time, and maybe there's some truth in that. Maybe. But there's also something else in that dismissal. Something worth noticing, which is how quickly you reach for a reason to make their perception of you less valid than your own, less accurate, less worth believing. What if they're not wrong? What if their inexperience, the very thing you're using to discount them, is actually an advantage in this specific case? What if they see you clearly, precisely because they haven't yet learned all the reasons you've given yourself not to be seen? Because experience does that sometimes. It teaches you to see complexity, which is valuable, but it also teaches you to see limitations, to anticipate problems, to overlay everything with history. And someone without that weight, someone who looks at you fresh, might actually be perceiving something that your own overfamiliarity with yourself has made it impossible for you to see anymore. But then there are the others, because it isn't just one person, is it? That's the thing that's harder to dismiss. One person you can explain away. One person's interest can be attributed to coincidence, to their particular taste, to factors that have nothing to do with you specifically. But multiple people, different ages, different contexts, all being drawn toward you in ways you keep not quite letting yourself acknowledge. That's harder to explain away. That starts to look less like coincidence and more like information about something you emit, something you carry, something in the quality of how you move through a room, or a conversation or a silence that people feel before they understand it. Something magnetic in the old sense of the word. Not mystical, not mysterious, just real, just genuinely, physically, humanly real. The kind of presence that doesn't announce itself, but gets noticed anyway. The kind that people remember after you've left the room. And you almost certainly have no idea you do this. Or you have a vague, uncomfortable idea that you immediately talk yourself out of. Because owning that fully, without deflection, means accepting something about yourself that the diminished version doesn't have room for. And the diminished version has been running things for a while now, hasn't it? Making the decisions, setting the terms, deciding what you're allowed to want is less than #0. 5# is greater than what you're allowed to receive, what kind of attention you're allowed to take seriously. And it's been in its way, trying to protect you from disappointment, from presumption, from the particular vulnerability of believing yourself to be more than you've been told you are. But it's also been costing you something specific, the ability to receive not just attention, though that too, but anything, compliments, care, the genuine interest of people who see something in you that you've stopped seeing in yourself. The diminished version intercepts all of it, inspects it, doubts it, minimizes it before it ever gets to land, before it ever gets to actually reach you. And so you go through life surrounded maybe by people who feel something toward you and somehow still feeling not quite seen, not quite reached, not quite enough. That's not a coincidence. That's the cost of the diminishment. The things that could reach you, the real things, the genuine ones, can't get through because the part of you that would receive them has been standing guard against them, deciding they can't be real, deciding they must be mistakes, deciding that the version of you they're responding to isn't the accurate one. So here's the question. The one underneath all of this, what would it look like not to pursue anything, not to decide anything, not to do anything differently, but just to let the information land? To let the fact of multiple people being drawn to you, one of them younger, one of them unexpected, all of them real, to let that be data, honest data about who you are when you're not managing the narrative, when you're just being and people are responding to the being. Because that's the thing that gets lost in the diminishment. The understanding that most of what draws people to you isn't something you do. It's something you are, and the doing The performing, the managing, the careful presentation actually gets in the way of it sometimes. The most magnetic version of you is probably the one that isn't trying, the one that's just present, just real, just unguarded enough to let the actual you show up in the room. And people feel that they feel the difference between the performed version and the real one, even when they can't articulate it, even when they don't know why they're drawn. They feel something in the moments when you forget to manage yourself. When something genuinely funny catches you off guard, when you say something honest before you've had time to edit it, when you're so present in a moment that there's no performance left is less than #0. 5 is greater than they feel it, and they move toward it, sometimes without fully understanding why. That's what the younger one is responding to. That's what all of them are responding to. Not the managed version, not the careful, diminished, preemptively modest version. The real one. The one that leaks through despite everything in the unguarded moments. The one that's been there the whole time. Magnetic and real and worth responding to. Even when you couldn't feel it yourself. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment not to do anything, not to pursue anyone or change anything or make a decision, but just to update the story, the internal one, the one you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you deserve and what kind of attention is reasonable to expect. To let the evidence, the actual present multiple people evidence, revise the story slightly in the direction of accuracy, in the direction of maybe you are exactly as interesting as they seem to think you are. Maybe the version of you they're seeing, the one that drew them in without you trying, is the real one. Not more real than what you know about yourself, but real alongside it. Part of the same complete picture you've been seeing in fragments, usually the darker, more doubtful fragments, for longer than you should have. You are more than the diminished version. You have always been more. And the people showing up, the younger one, the unexpected ones, the ones you didn't see coming, they're not mistakes. They're not confused. They're not seeing something that isn't there. They're just finally seeing you more clearly than you've been seeing yourself. And maybe quietly, without making it a big thing. It's time to start catching up to them, to start seeing what they see. Not all at once, not perfectly, just a little more than yesterday. Just enough to let it land. This time, actually land